Rhythm and Soul Radio. I am Marco Nobles. We have our virtual studio open, and we are joined by a gentleman who is critically acclaimed. Most of us saw him when he was on season 17 of The Voice. He is a soul rock indie artist, singer, songwriter, uh, producer as well, I guess.
Yeah,
Joe
sure.
James is here with us. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm so thankful to be here with you. Well, I wish I was actually there with you, but hey,
Yeah,
we,
yeah,
you know, we're
yeah.
we're, we're in different parts. So, man,
But
thank
we'll
you
get
for
it
having
together
me.
soon. We'll get it
Yeah, we
together
will.
soon. Absolutely. So now you are based in Austin, Texas. Are you originally from Austin?
No, I'm originally from Southern California.
Okay.
Moved to Texas about 8 or 9 years ago. My wife and I.
Okay. Okay. And you've been on the music journey, obviously before that. Did you move
Yeah.
around music, or did you move to Texas around other things?
No, so I actually moved to kind of take a breather from music, to be honest with you. Um,
Mm.
and so I was doing a lot of stuff in Los Angeles, doing a lot of, recording and session work and songwriting. Um, and just got tired of the hamster wheel there in Los Angeles and ended up moving to Temple, Texas, my wife and I. And then, of course, I couldn't stay away from music and moved, not too far away from the live music capital of the world. So
Right.
I shot myself in the foot there. I had to get back into it. Uh, but
Right.
but I love it, man. I've been doing it for a long time, and I just couldn't imagine. God's gifted me with this thing, and I have a calling to play music, so I'm going to do it. I'm not going to be disobedient.
Right, absolutely. And as you talk about that journey, I guess it really speaks to the new album that you just released this
Yeah,
past Friday, "Found My Way." So,
right.
is that kind of like a little bit? I guess it's biographical to a degree in terms of whether it's finding your way back to music or finding your way in general.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's my testimony, and I wrote this. The majority of these songs at the beginning, middle, and end of 2021.
Mm,
So I had a really terrible mental breakdown at the beginning of 2021. A lot of that probably stemming from 2020 and everything
mm,
that happened in that year. Um, and man, it just brought me to a place where I had to look in the mirror and I had to ask myself like really hard questions of like what who am I and why am I doing this and what is it for? What's the meaning of all of this? Because again, speaking of the hamster wheel, you get into these situations in your life, especially with music, is you fell in love with music a long time ago
mm-hmm.
when you were a kid, but then you somewhere along the line fall out of it because it becomes a job and the stress and the social media and the on the road and everything just kind of piles on. So essentially there comes a time where you ask yourself like, why am I doing it? you know um,
Mm,
but I got to this point where it was everything was meaningless for me, and I didn't care about music, I didn't care about life, I didn't care about anything. And so it was a very hopeless time. But I think everything works out for a reason, and that reason was me finding my way. So found my way
right.
back to faith and the meaning of life, here on earth. And I guess for me it was is finding my way back to God, and God carrying me through this dark valley that I was in mentally, and coming out the other side with a whole bunch of songs and a whole bunch of hope, you know.
Mm,
And so that's the thing. That's found my way. I found the way, and so that's what all of the music is about. It's an album of hope. It's an album of learning to rest in the valleys, because a lot of times we spend the majority of our life in valleys and we only get a few mountaintops. And so it's like,
mm.
so we got to learn to rest there. And I found my rest you know and in my faith and in God. And that's the thing that completely pulled me out of it. And that was almost 2.5 years ago. And, and here I am releasing um, this album of hope and this album of life, and so it's something that means a lot to me. And it is about my life, but
Mm.
also it's for anyone else that wants to listen to my testimony and hopefully be able to find some type of encouragement or hope within it.
Right. It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. We are speaking with Joe James. The new album is Found My Way, and was just released this past Friday. And you just did a really album release show there in Austin on Saturday, the 9th, which I'm sure was amazing.
Oh
You know.
man, I wish you were there. Why weren't you there?
I wish, my next time in Austin probably won't be until March during South by Southwest time
Well, hit
as
me
we're
up,
there every
man.
year.
Hit
Yeah,
me up.
we definitely look forward to being able to catch up in person then. Um, but as you talk about, going through what you went through in
Yeah,
2021, it's interesting because I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of us became aware of you through The Voice.
yeah,
And you were on that season, which was about 2019, and we were saying right before we started, oddly enough, to go, on The Voice and get the accolades that you did, and John Legend, calling you a talent. You have
yeah,
a incredible voice to listen to, and all that. That seems like that would be something to propel you um, to take the next step as you were, I guess, coming back to music since you mentioned you had stopped.
yeah,
And then, of course, we had the pandemic, which kind of put a hold on everything,
yeah,
So talk about that process, in terms of being able to kind of work through all of that, that the starts and stops. There's already a lot of starts and stops in the music industry anyway.
yeah,
You, you know, then you have to deal with the major stop of life that comes up.
right.
So talk about that process.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was, that journey was really cool. I mean, I loved being on The Voice, and it was another world for me, to be honest, because it's a TV show, so it
Mm-hmm.
was more TV world, which it was amazing. But yeah, to get those compliments from people that high in the industry is great, and it was wonderful, and it was such a time for me. But I think a lot of times we get too fixated on those things of like what people say, and all of those things are nice, but they don't make who you are, and so,
Mm,
but it was really, but it's still great. I'm not going to downplay, John Legend. Like, he's amazing.
right.
Like, for him to say that to me is an honor. But yeah, it was one of those things. I started to get some momentum, and then of course, yeah, the pandemic happened, and it just, everything stopped. But you know what? During that time, we were planning on releasing an album because my wife had gotten sick at the end of 2019, and
Mm,
she battles with Crohn's, um,
mm-hmm,
and so she was sick, and I ended up, being a songwriter. Therapy for me, I wrote songs, to kind of cope with what was going on during that time, and so I made this whole album called Back Home for her, and we were gonna release it in 2020, and we were gonna have an album release show at Antone's in 2020, but then
mm,
everything kind of shut down, and but we ended up kind of working like throughout that whole time, because I mean, it kind of kept our minds occupied, because we were just promoting that we decided to promote the album during during that whole time. So my time was spent just making live streams and promoting the album and doing
mm,
interviews. So I kept myself pretty occupied during that time. So I was pretty fortunate. I know a lot of people kind of they didn't release during that time because I guess they thought it was a bad time. But I'm so thankful that I did. I'm thankful that I released an album because it kept us going. It kept us
right.
motivated, pushing through. Um, so we didn't really stop much. we kept going.
That's great. That's excellent to be able to to continue because I'm sure it was needed in your music. The way you write and the way you deliver the material is needed because it really speaks
Yeah,
to the soul. When you're called a soul rock artist, you are that.
yeah.
In terms of the way you write and the way you sing and what you're writing about. So. When you get to like find my way, one of the things you found your way, I kind of noticed that there seemed to be a number of songs that have been kind of floating around for a minute. So was this album kind of like a compilation of stuff you had already done, maybe with previous albums, maybe from the album that you did in 2020?
Oh, so no,
That
no, this was you mean all of the songs the songs for this specific album now?
yeah, yeah.
No, no, these are brand new ones, man.
Okay,
This
okay.
was a excuse me. Yeah,
Mm,
these all came from that they came from that time, like I said
okay,
in 2021, um,
okay.
where I had to put pen to paper again, and try
Hmm.
to really get through that whole experience via songwriting.
Right.
Um, so
So
yeah, that
maybe
was
because there were some of the songs that I had seen, whether it was "Beautiful Soul" or "Down by the River," that had been, they were like video performances of, I guess I'll say,
all right. Okay. Yeah.
ways before the album was actually, released. So that's what made me think that maybe, but it's always a process,
Oh, sure.
particularly as a songwriter, it's always a process. So if you're working on stuff in 2021, 2022. Here we are towards the end of 2023, and so it's probably only
Yeah.
natural
So
that some of that stuff is out there a bit.
sure. Yeah. I mean, it was a process I mean, to be honest, in 2021, I really didn't write a lot. I think it was more towards mid to the end of 2021 where I started writing. So the majority of it was 2022 where I started
Mm,
really constructing the songs and kind of trying to figure out like what they were where they were going and how they were going to sound sonically and like all of these
mm-hmm,
things. I had to figure like that out,
mm-hmm.
in 2022. So then 2023 comes along and we had it and we refined it over those months, in 2022.
Right, right. Being in Austin, do you find it because you've stayed, as I understand it, you've stayed pretty much on the independent track. Do you find it easier being in Austin to continue to stay independent, given the nature of Austin as the live music capital of the world? There's a lot flowing through.
Yeah,
There's the opportunities with South by
100%.
Southwest and Austin city limits and all of that. Is it easier, you think, because you spent so much time in LA or in California? Do you find it easier in Austin to really continue to be independent and have the music be pure, so to speak?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's a different world. It's almost a little bubble here in Austin where there's so much support,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many like not only musically and like the fans supporting everybody, but there's organizations and foundations like Ham Foundation where they supply you with health insurance, and there's
Mm-hmm.
Sims which they help you with mental health and recovery and getting people into rehab, and there's Sonic Guild, which we're doing a, a concert for tonight, and they helped fund people to make albums, which that's how I made my album. And so
Mm.
there's all of that stuff in Austin, which I think that separates Austin from a lot of the other cities.
Right, right. I know you mentioned you're getting ready to do a show tonight, so we won't keep you much
No,
longer.
no, you're good. I'm just trying to get them. I'm trying to get people. I'm like, get out of here. I'm trying to have an interview, man.
Yeah. So I know this is always a hard question. And by the way, it's Rhythm and Soul Radio. I am Marco Nobles talking with Joe James. His new album is Found My Way. Um, is there a favorite? I know a lot of times artists kind of create out of struggle and pain, and it sounds like to a degree some of this album or a lot of this album was created out of that. So this may be a weird question, but is there a favorite track you have on this particular album?
Oh man, that's a hard question. You know that. Um,
Yeah, I know it's always hard, but
yeah,
it
because
may
they're
be
all
even
your
harder with
babies. It's
this.
like trying to pick your
Yeah,
favorite baby, but we all have one though, right?
right.
Uh, we just won't say it out loud sometimes. But no, I think for me, uh, the album, the song that solidifies, I guess, the album for me is actually one that's really not produced as heavily, and it's a song called "Everything You've Done for Me," and
Mm.
it's a song I wrote. That was one of the first ones I wrote at the very beginning of this whole journey, and I was in the darkest place of my life, and I but I had come back to the Lord, and I had found my hope in the faith, and I had this kind of hope in thankfulness in the middle of kind of the dark time, and so I wrote a song called "Everything You've Done to Me," "Everything You've Done for Me," and it's this song of complete gratitude, but the gratitude is happening even though I'm in the middle of the darkest valley of my life. And that's the thing that
Mm.
completely pulled me through. So everything you've done for me, if I had to pick a song, if you're making me pick
Okay.
a song, it's that one.
Okay, all right. And then the other thing that I think about when I listen to the different songs, whether it's everything you've done for me, or down to the river, or found my way, it is the different styles within your music. What are your influences? What do you take from that helps you kind of create your own style? Because it is very unique in terms of the different sounds that come out in your music.
Well, thank you, man. Every artist loves to hear that their sound is unique. Um, I I would say, I mean, first of all, just life in general. But I take inspiration from everything. But musically, my dad is a musician. He's a bass player, so he's like the
Mm,
first one. Then I would have to go to the Beatles. I'm a huge Beatles fan,
mm,
uh,
okay.
songwriting wise. And then I would have to go to Stevie Wonder, Jimi Hendrix, um, the Allman Brothers, Bob Dylan. Like all of those pretty much like shape my songwriting, especially probably the Beatles and Hendrix. I would say like those
Hmm.
two are the biggest ones for me, and then one for songwriting, one for which is the Beatles. The Beatles a heavy influence songwriting for me. They at the beginning of my interest in music when I was a kid, that's when I started falling in love with music was with, you know, watching the Beatles anthology. And so I kind of
Hmm.
got a crash course in songwriting through them, and then Jimi Hendrix, because of course the guitar playing. I was like, how
Right.
is he making his guitar sound that way? So yeah, those two, the biggest ones I would say for me.
Got you. Got to make sure people know how to follow you and find you on social media, internet. We're in a digital world now, so
Yeah, man.
uh, remind people how they can follow you and of course get the music.
Yeah, go joejamesmusic.com. That's JOJAMES music.com. You can find online store, all the videos, all the music, everything is on the website.
Excellent, excellent, man. Thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm a relatively new fan. Definitely in loving the music. Like I said, it's definitely to me, I think a very unique sound and very soulful. But get a chance to rock out and, like you
Oh
said,
man.
connected to spirit as well. So,
Ah,
that's all important.
thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We look forward to having you again, and then certainly seeing you when we're in Austin come
Yeah,
March.
let me know, man. We'll hang.
Absolutely. It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. Joe James, the new album, Find My Way. And I think we're going to go with Down to the River. That right? I don't know if there's a single, but right now that's the single we're
Yeah,
going with.
baby.
It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. Joe James, Down to the River.